Okay, we're here with our great friend Jagamara, who has made his second, or what court appearance was this actually?
This is my fourth one now.
Right. And so, look, let us. You've told us a little bit before we came here today about the time that you spent in the room. So tell us about your preparation before your case on, what was it, June 6th?
26. No, it was the 26th of June, which was last Wednesday.
Right. Okay, so give us a little bit of insight into what you had to do to prepare for the case.
Okay. Well, as from our last interview we had at the wherever we did that down near the water, I explained what I was doing with the OPPT stuff, with the One People's Public Trust documents, also with the One Heaven documents. I continued with the same thing, but I was rather than putting my hand out asking everyone, please type these documents, please type your documents and so on, at such a short time, I realised, well, if I can get someone to type it out, it's still not going to give me enough time to know what is on the document. And if I don't know what it means, then it's going to be very hard for me to debate or argue my point to a judge or whatever, whether it be on paper or whatever. Yeah. So I basically locked myself into a room for 4 to 5 days straight, all day, all night, slept probably 3 or 4 hours in between, all of that, and read through the documents at the same time, getting a Dragon program on the computer to actually read the document to me over and over and over and over again. Same thing with the courtesy notices, also UCC filings, to basically see, rather than just black and white words on a page, what's it mean inside my head and my heart, dealing with this case that I'm dealing with. What I found when I actually sat in that space is that it seems like it was ordained. The reason I say that is, from the time they pulled me over, which was the 9th of the 12th, 2012, at 1:30 in the morning, I was pulled over for driving without a license. Oh, they pulled me over and just a random check. Found I didn't have a license, gave me a slip to appear in court. On the 12th of the 12th, 2012, is when I received the paper document, which was the summons to go to court. Yeah. Then on the 9th of the 1st, 2013, I went into the court for the first time. I then asked them to give me more time to prepare a case, and that I was going to go for law. So they adjourned it for a few months. I went in. From that adjournment, I faced the judge, and the judge asked me how I was going to plead. Guilty or not guilty? I told her I refused to plead guilty or not guilty. I'm here to prove I did not break the law. She said she refuses to accept that. She'll only accept the plea of guilty or not guilty. I then repeated myself. I refuse to answer guilty or not guilty. I'm here to prove I did not break the law. And then I held up an OPPT document, One People Public Trust, which was foreclosure of banks and governments, that I had put a stamp on the top right-hand corner and the bottom left-hand corner, and said, I have evidence to prove there is fraud going on. May I hand you the document? Which was basically foreclosed on everything. She refused to deal with my documents. She said, I will not be dealing with you today, and I refuse to deal with your paperwork. I'm adjourning this for another 4 months. And then she said, when you turn up again, you will have to enter into a plea of guilty or not guilty, or we'll get someone to enter it for you. And I said, well, you will do whatever you do. And that's when we caught up the last time. Then we were coming into this particular case. I'd gone through all of the documents that we'd been gone through before the cases, and looked at all of the things that the judge had said to me, and what the police prosecutor had said, as well as my charge. The funny thing about it, on my charge sheet, the policeman states, when we pulled the offendant over and when we found he has not got a driver's license, and then he said to us, the law you are talking is a law of slaves. I am not a slave, and I do not follow your slave law. That is what's on the statement that I made at 1:30 in the morning. Yeah. Without me even knowing, when I saw the OPT documents, One People's Public Trust, it talks about the end of slave jurisdictions, which is what I spoke at that time. And I had no idea that these things were being put together. Yeah. That's correct. And the rights of the sovereign. And then keep going through the same documentation, realizing, hang on, I don't have to build my own house or my own canoe because these documents or all these systems out there are basically the kitchen, the bedroom, the bathroom of the house that I've been looking for. Yeah? Like own little units put together. So rather than running with the one people's public trust only, or one heaven only, or sovereign jurisdiction only, I've been pulling a little bit the best pieces out of all of them to put them together to say, okay, well, like a jigsaw puzzle.
Because it's the same journey.
Absolutely, because it all comes down to freedom.
Yeah.
And if the freedom, what is freedom to me is the capacity to be able to travel air, land and sea without asking nobody. But if you have to ask someone's permission, you're not free. Yeah.
So the key for you in this second appearance, or third or fourth appearance, or whatnot, was preparation, though.
The key was, I have a system of freak out. I call it freak out because I've been in scenarios in my earlier time, not just in courts, just in normal everyday life, whereby in a situation, I don't give it enough detail or pay enough attention, and so after this, whatever circumstance happens, I end up with more shit or more garbage to clean up in a worse circumstance.
Yeah.
So rather than allowing that to happen, I locked myself in the room for 2 days. The first 2 days is just freaking myself out of all of the worst case scenarios that can happen.
Yes.
Chuck me in jail, bash me, tase me, the worst thing. And I'll conjure these things up my head and freak myself out. And then I go, okay, that's the worst. Now, dig yourself out of there. Whatever you have to do in paperwork to protect yourself against that, protect yourself against that.
Yeah.
Yeah? So basically in my head I thought, okay, think if I was going to go up against martial arts, up against a brown belt, one belt of black. I'd train against a black belt.
Yeah.
So that when I come down to fighting this fella here, I'd have been trained to deal with him.
Yes.
With 10 times harder jurisdiction.
Yeah.
Yeah? And I thought, well, I have to do the same thing in the case. Because, firstly, my first enemy is the paper they're trying to get me with. The third enemy is the concept written on the paper was a charge of breaking law. Third enemy is the police prosecutor who's trying to make a claim that I've broken the law. And the fourth one is the adjudicator, the judge. How to make all of them so they want to be my friends rather than my enemy.
Yeah.
If I attack them all, then they're all going to come at me at the same time and do whatever in order to protect themselves. So I thought, well, how do I protect myself and try and stop them from being my enemies? I need to make them my friend. How do I make them my friend? I let them know that I am doing this paperwork not because I'm out to have a shot at you, not because I want to get into war. I'm simply putting this paperwork together to inform you that you don't know who I am. And I, as a sovereign, I have these intrinsic rights, but I'm here to cause no harm or loss, which I can prove by my behaviour to you.
Yes. So, when you got to the court, take us through what happened.
Okay.
Because ultimately a lot of people might end up in the same position.
Okay. What happened was, the paperwork is paperwork. It's one thing to do paperwork, but it's the main golden rule I found with this whole thing is once is not enough. If you eat 4 meals a day or 3 meals a day and jurisdiction of brushing your teeth, you brush your teeth after every meal. Yeah? So same thing with paper. If you know you go into the court and you don't know who you're going to be dealing with or how successful they are with use your paperwork to make sure it gets to its place, then I must do whatever I can to make sure every person I deal with has the paper they need to have in order to know what is going to go on from the time I walk into the courts.
Right.
Yeah?
Yeah.
So for that reason, after doing the paperwork, I sent all documents by registered mail. And that was a week and a half before the case. Yep, they're all registered mail, what was sent at that time, landed on their desks at least 1 day before the case. On the day before it, of the case, I also emailed it to every one of them. A copy of their charge and their bill and their courtesy notice was emailed to them all as well.
Yes.
And on the same day that I emailed it, which is the day before, I then hand-delivered a copy of the exact same documents to the court, clerk of the court to let them know whatever magistrate I was going to deal with, give this to them. And also I went around and hand-delivered it to the police prosecutors, letting them know whichever police prosecutors, they need to get this document because I've emailed this one and sent it by registered mail to this particular person. So whoever deals with me, they need to know about this contract. Then when on the day I walked in, I downloaded and printed the same documents off again. Went into the courts, went to the front of the clerk and said, okay, I've been delivered these yesterday, emailed them 2 days before, and they've been sent by registered mail, and they've all been accepted. These are the dates that all of these have been accepted. And the last date was yesterday, so it means everyone now is under contract when they walk in the court. They're all under contract. I said, so, what's the name of the judge I'm dealing with? She said, oh, it's Mr. So-and-so. I said, oh, here's a copy of the document I brought in yesterday, give them hand-delivered, and also sent by email and registered mail. You need to send this to the judge upstairs that I'll be dealing with, so he knows what's going on. I also gave him a copy of that, the courtesy notice, plus a copy of the sovereign document we spoke about, which just got off the Facebook, yes, which is from Lord Halsbury, was it? I put that as the cover letter for the courtesy notice.
Now, just as a brief explanation to anyone watching, this documentation that we're talking about, we're putting together a website with you now, Jagamara, yes, so don't stress too much about what these documents are at this
Absolutely.
Point.
Yep.
We will have a follow-up video, yep, where you'll get to see the documents that we're talking about.
Absolutely, yep.
Okay.
Then once that was done, I felt I've done everything that I possibly could to show anyone I was going to be dealing with, I am not here to cause any harm or loss. I am not here to admit guilt to anything or break the law of anything. I'm here to show them that I'm, by my behaviour and my sovereign capacity, I'm here to show you that this can be done honourably. We can clean up whatever the messes is expected honourably.
Yep.
Yeah?
So what was the attitude of the court towards you when you...
Okay, it was very, very surprising. Myself, my lady and her father all came into the court. As soon as we walked in and sat in the room, they went through about 9 people like a mincer. The judge just minced them in front of us all. And then it come to one case before my case, and they called the guy up, and the guy was shuffling documents, and the judge looked up at this other person and looked at the prosecutor and said, what's this other case? And then they started talking with each other. The police prosecutor turned around and started asking a few questions. Who's who? And that's me. Then we were asked to leave the court. We left everyone in the court was sent out of the court for 5 minutes while the judge was dealing with whatever they were dealing with. We then walked in afterwards. When we were outside, the police prosecutor came in and said, how are you going to be pleading with your case? I said, I'm not entering a plea. And he looked at what's your name? Looked at my documents and, okay, you just wait for a second, and raced inside again into the courts. He came about 2 minutes later and said, when they let us know, we'll just go back in. Cool. They then convened the court. We all walked back in again. As soon as we walk in, they called my name. I stood forward. This is my name. And then the first thing, the person before, the judge's words were, Mr. So-and-so, please stand forward. Yes. Are you Mr. So-and-so? Yes. Blah, 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 and then smashed him. Next one, looked at myself. Gary Simon. And I said, yes. And he said, can you please step forward and tell me your name? And I stepped forward and I said, I am Gary Simon. And he went, because I never said Mr. or anything. I said, my name is Gary Simon. And he started looking at the papers, started shuffling the papers. And then he pulled it up, document. I see by these papers that you are not going to enter a plea of guilty or not guilty. And I said, that is correct. And he said, I will enter a plea of not guilty for you. Immediately. And I looked at him and went, what do you mean for me? And he said, I will enter the plea for you. And I said, in that case, and door knocked behind, knock, knock. The door behind the judge opened up. A senior clerk of the court walked in, tapped the judge on the shoulder, clicked the fingers to the clerk, up. They both got up. She held the door open. Judge walked out first, clerk behind. She then closed the door. We're standing there. I'm still standing, supposed to be dealing with the judge. I looked at the police prosecutor. He's looking back at me, wondering. I looked up where the space was, the clerk and the judge was no one there. I turn around, I look at Stephanie and her father and everyone else, and everyone's just looking at each other, wondering what's going on. And I said, "What's happening?" And the police prosecutor said, just sit down and just relax." So cool. So I sat down. Then I just started scratching my head a little bit, and the police prosecutor sort of scratching through his papers, and he started getting really fidgety. The door knocked 3 times again. The door opened. The judge, the clerk came back in. The clerk sat down. The judge sat down. He's holding papers. He's looking at me. He's shaking, and looked again, looked back, and he said, "I will not be dealing with your case today. I will not be." And he chucked the papers on the table and said, "We're not dealing with you. All your papers on this day." He said it's going to be adjourned for another 2 months, and he said that's right. I don't have enough evidence to rule against you or for you, he said, and then he looked at the police prosecutor and said, "What about you, sir?" And the police prosecutor stood up and said, "We have lost our file on the man. We have no evidence against him for any of the charges that have been laid, that the charges have been laid. We have no evidence." And the judge just looked at him, looked at me, and then said, we're going to have to adjourn until August the 28th. And then he said, "The police are going to ring you, and they're going to send you a case file of your charges. It's in your best interest to you go and pick them up, or will be used against you. You do understand that, don't you?" And I'm looking at the judge like, what? You just dropped the ball, shaking, and now you're trying to tell me like you have authority when we all just saw you lost your authority? Yeah. But he didn't want to look silly in front of everybody else that he's about to smash after my case. Yeah. So he said, "You do understand you need to do this, or will you throw the law at you with the most force of law?" And I said, "You will do whatever you do, and I'll do whatever I do. Is that all?" And he just said, "It's adjourned. We adjourn this case." Bang, hit, and I'm sitting there going, what's just gone on? My case was supposed to be dealt with today. The last case I went to, they said, if I do not step into a plea of guilty or not guilty, they would determine whether they put me in front of another series of judges or a jury. Now that I'm supposed to be dealt with now, you've just adjourned me again.
And for anyone that hasn't seen your first video, we're talking about a driving without a license.
That's correct.
Traffic offence, which in most circumstances for a prosecution, would be pretty clear cut. Most people wouldn't be getting this type of an adjournment or.
There was 9 people before me, and they all got smashed in front of us. Yeah, they got minced up in front of us.
So August 28, hopefully our intrepid cameraman will be available, and we will be definitely following this case. So in terms of what your preparation is, you've done the preparation. You've given these people the paperwork. They're on notice.
They're all done.
So in terms of what else now is for you is just to wait for this case.
Yeah. Right. What I'm doing now is I'm simply going to refine the documents I put in before. Yes. I'm going to go upline, meaning whoever I've sent the document to, who is their boss, all the way up to the top, and then just send them all up. Continue the documents upline. Right. So by the time I get to the court, everybody up the top, all the way through, is on notice and is on time.
Now, just a quick question, which we might, follow up on later on. In terms of the documentation that you've already given out, I'm assuming these people are the agents of all the people that are further up the line.
Absolutely.
Anyway.
Absolutely.
So in essence, really, you have
already
the agents have the documentation.
That's correct.
It's the agent's responsibility
to pass it to the principals.
But I know what you're trying to attempt
Yep.
is so you're saturating it so that there's no excuses.
That's right. Well, the thing is, if you send one document once, it's going to take you a week before you know it gets from this point to wherever it's gone, and the understanding of this document is going to be very little.
Yes.
But if I send that same document to every single person who is upline, then when this fellow at the bottom rings up and says, I've got this notice, which says, and he's going to go, I know I have the same notice.
Yes.
And then when they're ringing up and they're all getting the same notice, they're all going to stop and realise they don't have to send it anywhere because everyone they were going to send it to has got one as well. So they're going to stand in front of it and walk out what this is. Yeah. What is it that makes this person send that to all of us at the same time? And that just to give them a shake-up. And the reason I did that is on the cover letter I said to him, please find these documents attached are not in any way sent to you to cause you harm or loss. It is a duty of care as my fiduciary duty to you as another sovereign who has been lied to. So this is to inform you of not just my rights, but the trickery that they're trying to get you to perform upon me.
Yes.
Yeah. These documents here that I have used against you, on the second and third page, you, the agent, can use the same documents if you Google this, blah, 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 to deal with your own boss. So I told him.
So ultimately, sorry to interrupt,
Go for it.
would it be, if you really wanted to get to the top of the food chain, could you send the documentation to the Queen?
Well, here's the sucker punch. I am. And the Vatican.
Yeah.
And United Nations.
Yeah.
Yeah. I am. And the best part about it, on the one heaven stuff, there's the thing which is the will and testament. In the will and testament, which is written by my straw man, my legal personality, given me the living principle, everything in his name, which was the trust that was set up when I was born, and the escrow accounts and everything else which is attached to it. Once I've claimed that under my sovereign jurisdiction, I then have the right to appoint an agent, which is from the Crown, which may be the judge or anybody else standing in front of me, to do a full forensic audit over that accounts from the time it was created, when I was born, to the time I received it, which is on the day I'm dealing with the judge. And I can, by giving him a document from the principal, whereby I'm giving him, I'm appointing him as the agent of the principal for the account or for the estate. Now I have a right to appoint him, the judge, as the one to do a full forensic audit over that. Because that judge has the capacity to tap into all that. That's why they do it every day. They're tapping into a birth certificate accounts. So rather than him, I walking in, he thinks he's going to make money from me. When we walk in next time, I want to give him a job. And if he denounces it, I can ask him to move the bench, get off the bench.
Now, a lot of people might wonder what the ultimate outcome is that you and we and others are trying to achieve here. It isn't real. Yeah. So I'll let you sort of look.
Freedom. Freedom is the capacity to travel, to trade, to do whatever you wish, causing no harm or loss to anyone else, without after having asked someone else for their permission.
Right.
That's freedom. Yeah. Travel air, land, and sea without having to ask someone, "Can I get a visa?" and get them to say yes or no. To drive on the road without having to get a license. That's freedom.
Yeah.
A sovereign means you have the right, ultimate authority, not over the world, but over myself.
Yes.
My authority, I am the consciousness, so my mind is the sovereign over my body. It determines what I think, say, and do. And if anyone out there thinks that they've got more control of my body, then they need to prove it by controlling what I think, say, and do better than my mind can.
Yeah.
And if they can't, cuts off the jurisdiction. So this is what I am sovereign over. This, not anything out there. Yeah? Now think of it like Admiralty law. If you're the captain, my conscious is the captain of the vessel, which is my body. Now before the vessel can leave the port, it needs to put a manifest out. So think of the port as your house. And your manifest is the documents you need to send to whatever police or whoever who are supposed to be taking care of the space that you're going to travel through. Does that make sense? Yeah. So by putting the documents together, recognizing who you are, claiming everything of yourself, and then putting a manifest, which courtesy notice, whatever you like, to the ministers of police and so on, letting them know, I'll be travelling through this particular space in this particular vessel, could be car, motorbike, whatever. This is the plates or this is the flag, and this is the fee schedule for anyone who pulls me over and you, because you're number one. Yeah? So it's your job to let them know when they see this flag or these plates travelling through that place that it's me in there, and they pull me over, immediately you and them and anyone up line is under price now.
So the next 2 months, we've got August 28th as the date, and the next 2 months, I hear there's a website being put together with a sort of step-by-step guide to people who are willing to, take more control of their own bodies.
That's correct.
Souls.
The main thing is, in order to be able to do this transition the right way, we must think the right way. If we step in saying, I'm going to fight you in court because you're trying to harm me, you're just perpetuating more fight, more violence, which means our next generation is going to go through the same shit we are. They don't know any better, but we do. So it's our job to teach them through paper. You can stand up and try and cause me harm or loss, fine. And I'll accept that, fine. But this is my fee schedule for it. Yeah? 1,000 ounces of silver per day. You want to play? Let's play. Yeah, I'll heal up in 2 weeks. How long is it going to take you to pay me off on 1,000 ounces of silver per day? It won't take long. Then you think, go up line, deal with the police, then deal with whichever policeman pulls you over, because they're the first interaction you have. Bang. Give them the notice. Find out what precinct they work for and so on. Then you give the exact same notice to the duty officer of his station. Yeah. So now the officer and him are now under a contract, and both of them are going to get charged now. I'm not going to charge the policeman only because his boss let him do it, so he can be charged. And then send the same document up to the police commissioner, and on, all the way up.
So you could really drive around with this document in your car, but without having the name filled in, and as soon as an officer pulled you over, you could ask for his name and...
Absolutely, but here's the thing. If your job is to protect yourself from harm, then why drive around with it in your car when you go, okay, I'm going to Bondi, and these are the places I have to go through to get to Bondi. This is the list of police stations I'll be travelling through, and so I'll put one out for every one of the stations. Because now I'm travelling through their space, and they all have my manifest.
Yeah.
They all know who I am now. So before I even get through there, or as I'm coming through, stop at that station first. 1, 2, 3, 4, or email it, or fax it, or both. Email and fax it. Yeah.
Did you have any responses back, from any email that you sent?
No. I got no responses from nobody. The funny part the part that blew my mind away the most at the court case was seeing how the judge was bang, hard line all the way through, until saw the document, started getting a little bit disturbed, and then when he was tapped on the shoulders by the senior clerk of the court, which took him and the clerk out for 5 minutes and said whatever they had, see him walk in like he's seen a ghost, and see him shaken and stumbling his words, and he couldn't look at us, could not look at myself, and every time he was trying to find something, he was dropping paper. Instead of picking up, he was dropping paper. I have never, ever seen that in my life. Never seen that before. And the judge that I dealt with, me and Paz had dealt with before. And he had kicked Paz out of the room, and myself got us forcibly removed by, what they call it, the sheriffs. And the first one, said, we won't accept Paz as a native assessor. You leave this room within 3 seconds, we'll have you forcibly removed. And then Paz threw the paper and said, you've been served, and walked out. That's the same fella. And then I did the same thing. He did the same thing to me. Kicked me out of the courts. So when I saw him, I just went, oh, shit. Oh, just an ass. Oh, my gosh, he's going to throw me up against the wall. He's going to treat me like an example. And we walked out. When we first walked out, I went, oh, gosh. And Peter's going, what's up? I said, see that judge in there? Yeah. Me and Paz have dealt with him. He's an arsehole. I don't know about today's case. What are you going to do? I said, I have no idea. the papers in, we just see how he behaves. Depending on his behaviour will depend on what I do.
Yeah.
I'm not just going to walk in and say, I'm going to do these shots.
Yeah.
I'm going to see what happens first.
Yeah.
Yeah? And I was expecting a war. I was expecting him to tear me up and make false claims about my documents and so on, is what I was expecting. What I did not expect was his behaviour.
Yeah.
And because I was expecting the worst, it really hit home when he flipped. When I was expecting a sucker punch to knock me out, whatever, chuck me in jail, whatever it was, to see him start fumbling and not even be able to look me in the eyes and looking around the place, shocked me.
Yeah.
Yeah? It's like walking into someone thinking, oh, you're going to fight this guy with the worst reputation. You think, oh, this guy's going to kill me. And you walk in, you see the guy that you're afraid of is actually more afraid of you than you are of them. And then that boost of confidence, that's what hit me then. That boost, boom, confidence. And then I just started reacting nicely, politely, every single time. I said, please, and you do understand what's happening, don't you, Gary? I said, I do. I said, but you understand what's happening, don't you? And he was like, looking around, was not going to give me an answer. As if, yes, he knows what I'm talking about, which is the paper was in front of him. But once again, didn't put him on show to make him do something where it looked like I'm trying to make him look stupid. I just let it go. It's just so he knows that I know. You know what we're dealing with now. I know the reaction. I know what you're going through, the freak you're going through with the paperwork that you're dealing with. I know you know, and you know I know now. Yeah? That's all that was about. Yeah?
Well, look, we're really looking forward to round 5 or 4 or whatever round it ends up being on the 28th. We will be there, definitely.
I just got a bit of a question. I was just wondering, if the prosecutors destroyed your file or lost your file, normally that means that it gets thrown out. There's no more, that's it, that's the end of it. So what are you actually reappearing for? What's been adjourned if they've lost their...
Well, here's the thing. I am simply going there for business.
Right.
I have no idea what charge they're saying, because as far as I'm concerned, they are making a claim that I broke the law. And because I've sent them courtesy notices, I'm just there to make money. That's all I'm doing. I've sent them a courtesy note saying, this is the only contract that exists between us all. Any business you want to do, I'm fine. Because think of it this way. Once they've got the courtesy notice and it's been delivered, they're on time. When you walk into a cafe, you see all your fruit and veggies or all your cake and biscuits and coffees is all on the menu with a price. Soon as you say, I'd like that cake, that coffee and so on, by your behaviour, they know you've accepted terms and conditions of the price of that cafe. Yeah? Well, by me walking into court, that is my cafe. As soon as they call my name, they've made an order on my menu. I would like one case of illegally trying to bind you with a contract between third party, blah, 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 which is 2,000 ounces of gold per day. I'd like to order this, so they make an order. Because the courtesy notice I gave in, that was the menu with the prices on it. And every single thing that they could do is listed there, of all the things they can do. And it's got a price behind it as a menu form. Yeah? So all I'm saying when they say, you doing this, I'm saying, no, I have not. I do not recognise your court. I don't recognise your judge. I don't recognise your clerk. I have no idea who you are. Because as far as I'm concerned from these documents, you don't exist. Been bankrupt on the 28th of December, so you don't exist. I just see a room full of people who want to do business. Now, I gave you terms and conditions for any business you wish to do with me. You call my name, so you've accepted my terms and conditions. Cool, let's do some business. That's all I'm here for. You made an offer to me to do a business. I gave you my terms and conditions. You call my name, you've accepted all my terms and conditions. Yeah? And that's all that's all I've done all the way through. There is no fight. I have no fault with anybody. I believe there is a claim being made against me and my estate. Cool. I have something to reject it. You have to prove these points in order. Yeah? Because I don't want to charge. If I've broken the law, I'll fix it. But you've got to prove to me I broke the law first. Yeah? So there is no argument, there is no fight. Because as soon as I walk in and go, I don't like blah, 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 the court has jurisdiction. Because the court's there for two or more bodies who cannot settle their own disputes. I don't have a problem, so I don't have a dispute. I know how to settle disputes. I gave you a contract which has terms and conditions and fee. When you walk in and go, blah, blah, I'm not going to fight with you because you want to do business with me. I'm going to accept your business. Step up. Yeah? Because the terms and conditions are there already.
Yeah.
Yeah? And that's the sucker punch. You walk in there going, oh, I'm going to hurt you, I'm going to war. You're walking in for a war. Now the jurisdiction of the court is real. It has jurisdiction because you're walking in for a battle. You walk in without a battle, there is no judge, he's just another person. There is no police prosecutor, it's just another person.
Right.
There's
So
no
that's
battle.
why you never enter the plea, because by doing either, you're declaring
I'm
war
saying-
or you're accepting their...
Yeah, I am saying that what you're claiming has some jurisdiction over me. If I say guilty or not guilty, you've still got a claim because I'm entering your business with your words for your court. And that's why I said, I don't enter a plea to guilty or not guilty. I'm here to prove I didn't break the law. You made a claim I broke the law. I'm here to prove I didn't do it.
Yeah,
That's
guilt's
it.
got nothing to do with it.
No,
Yeah.
that's right. Because the word guilty is payment in gold. Not guilty is refuse to pay your payment in gold, therefore can hold your body as surety. They call it jail. So I'm not willing to get them to hold my body as surety for a bill that I don't need to pay. Yeah.
Well, thanks a lot, Jagamara. It's always very interesting to sit down and talk with you, but we really can't wait to see August 28, and we will be there, and it will be uploaded. But coming up will be our next video on
Procedures.
You know, a streamlined approach to setting
Absolutely.
this in stone. The website will be coming soon, so stay
Absolutely.
tuned.
Well, what I've got to say is, what all the paperwork we'll be putting together is not the only thing you can do, but it's the only thing that I've found so far that works.
Yeah.
That has got me to this point in time.
Yeah.
Every other document from every other procedure out there, which only uses their procedure and their own documents, has failed. And everybody who's used only their documents of that procedure has failed. They've got taken it so far, but they do not get the end result they're chasing.
Yes.
So by borrowing different technologies from different areas, you use what does work in one, which hasn't worked in another. So you're only getting the best of the tools for your own.
Dynamic.
Yeah,
It's an evolution.
absolutely.
You know?
Yeah, absolutely.
All right.
Yeah.
Okay, well, thanks again, brother. And
Blessings,
we will
guys.
be seeing you again very soon.
Absolutely. And cheers, everyone. I look forward to this movement.